Have you ever trusted someone close to you, only to find out they were not as genuine as you thought? In this video, we share the powerful story of Aunt Sid, a woman who faced betrayal, harsh criticism, and the harsh realities of life while still maintaining her dignity and independence. From family members who only wanted to take advantage, to those who criticized instead of offering support, Aunt Sid learned invaluable lessons about trust, self-reliance, and the importance of knowing who truly has your back. Stick around until the end, as her story will not only inspire you to be more discerning in your relationships but also teach you how to navigate life's challenges with resilience and wisdom. Before we begin, I would appreciate it if you like this video. You can help me continue to spread the old age lesson. If you haven't subscribed yet, I recommend you subscribe and turn on the bell so you don't miss any videos. If you like this video, please comment number 1. If you don't like it, comment number 0 to let me know, so I can make a better video for you. Now let's get started. Aunt Sid, now in her 70s, lives in a modest house tucked away at the end of a narrow alley. Her life, although quiet and simple, is rich in stories shaped by years of both joy and hardship. She lost her husband far too early, and over time, her children grew up, got married, and moved away to build lives of their own. Now, Aunt Sid lives alone, finding solace in her small savings and the vegetables she grows in her humble backyard garden. Though life has not always been kind, she continues to carry herself with dignity and grace. Her smile, warm and genuine, is one of her most cherished traits, and she holds fast to her principles. She often says, "Even if I'm poor, I will never rely on relatives who have selfish intentions." In her younger years, Aunt Sid had a relative, Uncle Chai, who was several years younger than her. He was known throughout the family as being charming and sociable, always the center of attention whenever he visited. With a silver tongue and a flair for storytelling, Uncle Chai had a way of making everyone feel special. He would often flatter Aunt Sid, saying, "Aunt, you are incredible. I've learned so much from you." His sweet words, laced with warmth and admiration, made Aunt Sid feel valued, and she believed that Uncle Chai truly respected and cared for her. But as time went on, Aunt Sid began to notice a pattern in her interactions with Uncle Chai. Every time he came to visit, he would ask for something. At first, it was small favors, help with documents or paperwork, which she was more than happy to assist with. But soon, the requests became more frequent and financial. "Aunt, I'm struggling a bit. Can I borrow some money? I'll pay you back next month, I promise," he would say, with his trademark smile. Being family, Aunt Sid didn't want to turn him away. After all, they had always been close, and she trusted him. How could she say no? So, she agreed, believing it was just a temporary inconvenience. As time went by, however, the amounts he asked for grew larger, and the promises to repay grew more distant. "Don't worry, Aunt, I'll pay you back as soon as I can," he would assure her, though his words always seemed to lack sincerity. Over time, the discomfort of being in this situation began to settle into Aunt Sid's heart. She couldn't help but feel uneasy every time he left her house, knowing that the money he borrowed would likely never be returned. Despite the nagging feeling in her heart, Aunt Sid continued to help him, driven by her inherent kindness and the belief that family should always be there for each other. That is, until something happened over 10 years ago that changed everything. On that particular day, Uncle Chai arrived at her house, beaming with excitement and holding a bag of fruit in his hands. "Aunt, I have some good news," he announced. "I found some cheap land near a mine, and its price is about to rise. How about investing in it with me? You already have some savings, and this will be a great way to secure your future. The land will be worth double its current value soon, and you won't have to worry about money when you're older," he suggested eagerly. Aunt Sid, trusting him and believing he had her best interests at heart, decided to take a leap of faith. She invested all of her savings in the land, convinced that this would be the financial security she had longed for. Over the next few years, the value of the land did indeed rise, and the land was sold for double its original price. Aunt Sid felt a wave of relief and excitement, thinking that now, at last, she would have enough money to live comfortably in her later years. But as time went on, there was something that didn't sit right. Uncle Chai never once mentioned sharing any of the profits from the sale. As the weeks turned into months, Aunt Sid's anxiety grew. She decided to take matters into her own hands and asked him directly. "The land was sold, Uncle Chai. What about my share? Uncle Chai hesitated, his smile faltering for just a moment. After a long pause, he awkwardly replied, "Oh, Aunt, I'm so sorry. Things have been tough for me lately. I've already spent all the money. Could you help me out just a little more? I promise things will get better soon." Aunt Somkid stood there, the weight of the situation sinking in. It was a painful moment of realization. Her trust had been taken for granted, and her savings, the little she had been lost. She had helped him out of kindness and love, but now it seemed her well-being had been compromised for his selfish gain. Despite the heartache, Aunt Somkid stood her ground. She had given all that she could, and now it was time to reevaluate her relationships and the true intentions of those around her. When Aunt Somkid heard those words, her heart sank into her chest, heavy with disappointment. All the years of saving, all the careful planning she had done for her future, money set aside for her old age, were now gone, just because she had trusted the sweet words of a relative. It wasn't just the money that was lost. It was her trust, the very foundation of her relationships with her family. That loss felt like a betrayal, not just of her finances, but of the love and loyalty she had invested in her family members over the years. Since that moment, Aunt Somkid learned a painful but invaluable lesson. Never rely on those who only think of their benefit, even if they are close relatives. No matter how well they speak or how sweet their promises are, in the end, they will disappoint you, and they might even take advantage of your trust and kindness. She had to accept that sometimes, family could hurt you more than anyone else. But Aunt Somkid didn't only face people who were selfish and self-serving. She also had to contend with those who were quick to criticize, regardless of the circumstances. One such person was Aunt Mai, her sister-in-law. Aunt Mai was someone everyone in the family learned to be cautious around. She always had an opinion about everything and wasn't shy about voicing it, often with sharp words and harsh judgments. One rainy evening, Aunt Somkid made the trek to Aunt Mai's house, hoping to find some respite and conversation. Aunt Mai, busy in the kitchen preparing dinner, greeted her with her usual tone of judgment. "Why do you live so frugally? You're getting old. Why save all your money? Spend it and live comfortably. Don't worry about the future." Aunt Somkid was taken aback by her sister-in-law's words. She wasn't being stingy, nor was she hoarding money out of greed. She was simply being prudent, setting aside savings for unexpected situations, like when illness strikes or when an emergency arises. But Aunt Mai didn't see it that way. To her, it seemed foolish and unnecessary. This wasn't the first time Aunt Mai had criticized her decisions. Aunt Somkid could recall a time when she had visited a friend in the hospital, and after returning home exhausted, Aunt Mai scolded her, saying, "Why are you so busy with other people? Focus on yourself. You're getting old. You need rest, not running around like this." If you are still watching this video and finding these lessons useful, please comment number 1 below to let me know that you are still watching this video with me. Thank you for your valuable time. Aunt Somkid felt her heart grow heavy. No matter what she did, no matter how much she tried to help others or prepare for the future, Aunt Mai always found something to criticize. It was never a word of encouragement, never an offer of support. It was always negativity, even when times were tough. Her words made Aunt Somkid feel like nothing she did was ever enough, like every effort was somehow misguided or foolish. The harshness of Aunt Mai's words echoed in Aunt Somkid's mind as time passed. Then, one day, Aunt Somkid fell seriously ill. Her condition worsened quickly, and soon she could barely take care of herself. She was exhausted, both physically and emotionally, and began to feel overwhelmed by the burden of her situation. After lying in bed for several days, she decided to go to the hospital for a checkup. But there was one problem. She didn't have enough money to cover the medical expenses. Aunt Somkid had some savings in the bank, but the thought of using them made her hesitate. In times like these, she thought, the family should be the ones to help. So she turned to Aunt Mai, hoping that, despite their differences, she might offer some support during this time of need. Though she dreaded the thought of asking for help, she had no other choice. But Aunt Mai's reaction was far from what Aunt Somkid had hoped for. When Aunt Mai heard about her situation, her response was cold and filled with criticism. "You can't even take care of yourself? Why are you always relying on others? You're old now, and still don't plan for yourself? Now that you have no money, you're asking for help?" "You brought this on yourself." Aunt Somkid was stunned. She had expected at least a small measure of compassion or understanding, but instead, she was met with blame and judgment. It was as if her entire life, her years of hard work, her efforts to save, and her care for others, meant nothing to Aunt Mai. To her, Aunt Somkid was simply not good enough, not smart enough to manage her own life. Aunt Somkid's heart sank further, crushed by the harshness of her sister-in-law's words. "I only hoped for a few encouraging words, just a small act of kindness, but instead, I was met with criticism and reproach. What hurt the most wasn't just the lack of help, but the way Aunt Mai made me feel like I didn't matter. I felt invisible in her eyes, as though all my efforts, all my struggles, were meaningless." From that moment on, I realized that people who have the habit of judging and criticizing others are not the ones you can rely on when you're in need. They won't offer you help or support when you're struggling. Instead, they'll make you feel worse, as if your suffering is your fault. Even though they are family, it doesn't mean they'll be there for you when you need them most. They may only make things harder for you, leaving you to face your challenges alone. Aunt Somkid learned that some people, no matter how closely they are related, can never be counted on to offer emotional support or comfort in times of hardship. Trusting them, especially in vulnerable moments, only leads to disappointment and pain. The second type of person is someone whose life is harder than your own, is not as hard as that of others around them. Take Aunt Seng, for example. Despite her age and the various challenges she faces in her own life, she has learned to console herself with the thought that there are others out there who are enduring even greater hardships than she is. While her circumstances aren't perfect, she isn't wealthy, and life is often tough for her, she is grateful for the things she does have. She has a roof over her head, a small but reliable savings account for emergencies, and most importantly, she has a sense of security that many others don't. Aunt Seng has a nephew named Number, who, despite his hard-working and patient nature, faces an endless series of struggles. Number, married with 2 children, works tirelessly, but his life is marked by instability. His job is unpredictable, leaving his family's financial future uncertain and their day-to-day survival a constant challenge. For someone like Number, the weight of responsibility, providing for his children, making ends meet, and keeping his family afloat, never seems to lighten. His efforts, though consistent, seem perpetually thwarted by circumstances beyond his control. One afternoon, Number visited Aunt Seng, looking worn out and heavy-hearted. When he walked in and saw her sitting by herself, his discomfort was immediately apparent. He hesitated for a moment, unsure of how to begin, but the strain of his struggles soon took over. He took a deep breath and said, "Aunt, I'm struggling these days. I can barely manage to take care of the kids. The bills keep piling up, and the expenses are overwhelming. I don't know how much longer I can keep up. Could you help me out?" Aunt Seng's heart broke at hearing these words. She had always known how difficult life had been for Number, and yet hearing him express his pain so openly was something that struck her deeply. The truth was, Aunt Seng herself didn't have much to offer. Her savings were not vast, and her challenges, age, health, and her limited means, meant that there was only so much she could do for him. It wasn't that she didn't want to help, it was that she was simply unable to offer the kind of help Number needed most, financial support. Instead of offering him the help he sought, Aunt Seng gently rubbed her hands together, as if gathering strength before speaking. "I'm old now," she said softly. "I don't have much to offer, but if you need rice or a bottle of fish sauce, take it. I can't help with money, but you're welcome to whatever I have here." Her words, though kind and measured, felt heavy in her heart. She felt an overwhelming sense of sorrow knowing how much Number was suffering. He wasn't just a nephew, he was family, and in a way, he was her responsibility too. She wanted to ease his burden, to give him the relief he so desperately needed, but she knew she couldn't. Aunt Seng reminded herself that, in times like these, it wasn't right to ask for help from others who themselves were struggling. She realized that such requests would only add to their burdens and cause unnecessary distress. The reality was, sometimes the most meaningful form of help wasn't monetary. In her heart, Aunt Seng knew that emotional support, words of encouragement, a listening ear, or just being present for someone, could be more valuable than anything material. With that in mind, Aunt Seng looked at Number with kindness in her eyes and spoke again, her voice calm and comforting. "If you ever need to talk, or if there's something on your mind, I'm always here." "I'm ready to listen whenever you need me." Those words, simple as they were, carried a weight of their own. To Number, hearing them could be a small source of comfort, perhaps enough to lift his spirits just a little. Sometimes, amid life's harshest challenges, having someone willing to listen, someone who understands and doesn't judge, can be the most powerful form of support. It's a reminder that even when material resources are scarce, emotional connection and genuine care can still make a huge difference. Aunt Sid chose not to burden her nephew further with the knowledge of her limitations, but instead, she focused on encouraging him to stay strong. She urged him to keep pushing forward, to continue doing what he could for his family, even when everything seemed so difficult. And in doing so, Aunt Sid reminded herself, and Number, that help doesn't always have to come in the form of money. Sometimes, the greatest gift we can give is understanding, compassion, and a willingness to stand by someone when they need us most. The third type of person is the two-faced person who enjoys gossiping behind your back. Aunt Sid once had a distant relative named Aunt Pa, who had a reputation within the family for being deceitful and duplicitous. To the outside world, Aunt Pa appeared to be warm-hearted, kind, and always ready to lend a hand. She wore a mask of friendliness, often presenting herself as generous and concerned about others' well-being. But behind closed doors, her true nature revealed a stark contrast. She reveled in gossip, eagerly sharing private matters with others, and undermining those who trusted her. Whenever Aunt Pa and Aunt Sid crossed paths, Aunt Pa would greet her with a bright smile and feign genuine concern. She would often ask how Aunt Sid was doing, seeming like she cared deeply. However, as the days and weeks passed, Aunt Sid began to notice an unsettling pattern. The things Aunt Pa said to her face didn't align with the actions and words she overheard from others. It was as if Aunt Pa was two different people, one who pretended to be kind and loving, and another who spread rumors and judgments in secret. One particularly difficult period in Aunt Sid's life was when she faced financial hardship. Reluctantly, she decided to ask Aunt Pa for a loan. It was a decision she didn't make lightly, as Aunt Sid had always prided herself on her independence and hated to burden anyone. But with no other options, she turned to Aunt Pa, hoping that her apparent generosity would translate into real help. Aunt Pa, with her ever-present mask of kindness, agreed to lend her the money without hesitation. If you are still watching this video and finding these lessons useful, please comment number 2 below to let me know that you are still watching this video with me. Thank you for your valuable time. However, just a few days later, Aunt Sid overheard a conversation at a family gathering that would change her view of Aunt Pa forever. One relative, unaware that Aunt Sid was within earshot, was gossiping about her situation. The relative said, "Aunt Sid is so poor, and she still dared to borrow money from me. It's truly pitiful. I don't know how she's managing her life." The cruel words hit Aunt Sid like a sharp knife, cutting deep into her heart. Someone she had trusted had turned her struggle into fodder for ridicule. She couldn't believe that Aunt Pa, someone who had appeared to be so understanding and compassionate, would betray her trust in such a hurtful way. Aunt Sid felt a mix of sadness and betrayal. She realized that Aunt Pa wasn't a genuine person, and her outward show of concern had been nothing more than a performance. From that moment on, Aunt Sid understood that some people, even within the family, were not trustworthy. Those who enjoyed spreading gossip behind your back and criticizing you in secret were never truly invested in helping you. Their kind words were mere facades, serving only their interests. The moment they turned their backs on you, they would quickly transform into critics, making you the subject of their ridicule for others to enjoy. This painful realization made Aunt Sid cautious. She understood that building meaningful relationships, especially within a family, required authenticity. People like Aunt Pa, who thrived on duplicity, could not be relied upon or trusted. Aunt Sid recognized that no one wanted to be the subject of whispered conversations behind their back. The harm caused by gossip and cruel words wasn't just emotional. It tore apart trust and damaged the bonds that held family members together. The damage done by those who gossip doesn't just affect your reputation. It can erode the foundations of love and unity within a family. Aunt Sid, wounded by the experience, vowed to never again seek help from individuals like Aunt Pa. From then on, she made a conscious decision to rely on herself and only turn to those who had proven to be genuinely supportive. She knew that asking for help from two-faced people would only lead to further hurt and strained relationships. As she reflected on the years gone by, Aunt Sid became more self-reliant, determined to navigate life's challenges on her terms or with the help of those who could be trusted. Over time, Aunt Sid learned an invaluable lesson. Not all family members are dependable. Sometimes, the more you ask for help, the more others look down upon you. Some people wear the mask of kindness and concern, but beneath it lies a person eager to tear others down. Aunt Sid taught herself to be independent, to rely on her strength, and to preserve her dignity no matter the circumstances. She understood that the most precious gift in life is the ability to stand on your own 2 feet, to take care of yourself, and to maintain your sense of self-respect. As we grow older, life becomes more difficult, and it's easy to feel the weight of asking for help. But Aunt Sid's teachings resonate with many because they highlight an important truth. Happiness in our later years doesn't come from leaning on others, but from how we live with independence, peace, and dignity. Poverty, in Aunt Sid's view, wasn't the worst fate one could face. Losing your dignity and peace of mind, on the other hand, was far more damaging. In her eyes, maintaining inner peace and preserving one's dignity was the true measure of a fulfilling life. Aunt Sid's wisdom, born from personal experience, taught those around her a vital lesson. Never allow others to diminish your worth, and always be cautious about who you allow into your circle. Some people, no matter how close they are only there to create drama and stir trouble, rather than to offer genuine support. And as time goes on, it becomes ever clearer that the most valuable thing we can hold on to is our own dignity and inner peace. Thank you for watching. In today's video, we explored Aunt Sid's powerful story of resilience, trust, and the harsh realities of family relationships. From the betrayal of loved ones to the criticism of those who should have supported her, Aunt Sid teaches us valuable lessons about being discerning in our relationships and remaining steadfast in the face of adversity. So, what have you learned from Aunt Sid's journey? What's one thing you will practice in your life to help navigate challenges with wisdom and strength? Please leave your comment below and share your thoughts. If you like this video, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more inspiring content. Remember, your comments and support mean the world to us.